Hey everyone, welcome back to the Soul Star podcast with Mandy and Allison from Soul Star Energy Collective. We are intuitives, healers, and spiritual teachers. And we just love coming into the space weekly to share all things intuition, energy, and just have fun. So, welcome. Thank you for being here. Today, we have a very special guest with us. We have Kirsten Foss. She is a business strategist and numerologist. And we're very excited to speak with her because we haven't had a numerologist on the podcast yet. So, welcome, Kirsten.
Thank you. I feel very honored to be the first numerologist.
Oh, we're very excited to have you.
I
It's kind of
know.
like how we met. We met at the Intuitive Arts Fair in Sydney, and I can't remember exactly how it started, but all of a sudden we were talking about numbers, and you're like,
We need you. We need you. Because we talk about numbers all the time as signs from spirit and whether that's in our courses, whether that's just in readings or anybody. So it was like, yes, we need that side of it on the pod.
Yes. And we were even talking that day. We were like, okay, we really need a numerologist. I think it was a numerologist and dream, somebody about dreams. And we met both of you that day. And it was like, yeah, so we manifested that beautifully. And now we're here.
well done. Good math.
Yeah. Yeah. Yay. So, can you tell us a little bit before we get into everything? We love to ask our guests about their journey and how they kind of got to where they're at to incorporate, the spiritual side of, and, for you specifically, the numerology and stuff like that. But will you please share with us your journey?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I've always kind of lived a spiritual life. I was lucky enough to have a mom in my late teens. Well, maybe not lucky for her because she was going through kind of like a midlife crisis at the time.
Oh, no.
And in the 80s, she kind of picked up the kind of spirituality, you create your own reality kind of concept. And so I felt really lucky to grow up always having the understanding that there is a silver lining to life, that there's a bigger picture, like things don't just keep happening to us. But throughout the years, as an adult, I got into, as my career, the beauty and wellness industry, and particularly I was an esthetician. And I had various spas that I owned and operated, and I retired from that from hands-on and have been a business strategist in the spa and beauty and wellness space since 2012. And so I love everything that has to do with beauty and wellness and giving, kind of just giving ourselves in service to others. And then in 2020, my life took a total nosedive, like a lot of people in 2020. Um, I had multiple family members that passed. And then my son, who was 19 at the time, got into a near fatal accident, actually 18. He was in a near fatal car accident. And he survived, and I'm happy to say he is absolutely healthy and living a very vibrant life today. But it was very, very scary. And there was a lot of trauma for me around that. Shortly after, about 8 months after that, my husband had a heart attack. He survived that.
Oh my goodness.
Stuff just kept coming at me and coming at me. And then I had a best friend breakup, which I don't know if anybody's had a best friend breakup, but those are worse than
they are.
Like marriage breakup.
It is, yeah. It's very hurtful.
So it was just all of these really heavy losses that I was feeling in my life. And just, I'm an emotionally strong person and have been my whole life, but that took me down. All of those things really took me down. Wow. And interestingly, what was kind of starting, like what I was looking at to help guide me just through this crazy, because there was COVID, I couldn't have my family around, my friends around, like it was just so isolating on top of feeling these massive losses or almost losses. And I had actually been working with a business coach probably about 4 or 5 years before that. And her name is Megan Alton. She lives actually in Kelowna, BC. And she was an economist and actually worked for the provincial government. And until her own intuitive spiritual self was just feeling like this isn't right for me. And she started going down a spiritual path herself and learning about numerology. And so I started listening to her forecasts, her monthly forecasts that she shared every month. And I was really looking at, like, she would share the energy of the month. And so I would kind of like gear my, like, okay, what's going on with myself, and okay, what's the main energy, and like how can I ebb and flow a little easier than what my life was feeling like jarring all the time.
Yeah.
And so I use like the energy of the days and the energy of the month to really guide myself out of this really alone and traumatic, like been traumatized essentially,
Mm-hmm.
um, situation that I found myself in. And it also helped me to kind of realize I need to do a deep dive and back into my own self and my own spirit, because one of the things I've learned, and I can look back on it now from the scar rather than the wound, is that when you feel like you don't have anything in real life that is like can kind of soothe yourself,
Yeah.
I realized, okay, that's the time to go inwards and to connect with my higher self, to connect with my guides, to connect with my grandmother. This is my grandma right here.
Oh.
And my mom. My mom's still alive, but my grandma's on the other side of the veil, and my auntie's on the other side of the veil. So, I was using those kinds of energies to support my own mental health and in getting well again. And once I was feeling better and still following the numerology, Megan's forecast, I was starting to think like, well, if I can use this to get myself out of a really difficult, emotionally heavy time, why can't we use this strategically in business to like amplify, to like put ourselves in energies that are rich and ripe for kind of generating revenue, serving others. So I started applying numerology to business strategy, and it makes business a whole lot easier when you
Wow.
have this understanding of what the energetics of numbers mean. I felt
Yeah.
like I had the code. Like I could see certain numbers and I knew what they meant. Whereas most people, if they don't understand what these numbers mean, it could just kind of bypass you, and you wouldn't even see it as an actual message from spirit.
So
Yeah.
numbers is kind of like a language that you learn to speak.
Absolutely.
Oh, I
And
love that.
the funniest thing is, um, I have always thought that I was stupid and dumb at math and numbers. That was the story I have told myself since probably, I don't know, when did we start learning geometry? Grade 5?
I still tell that story, and I'm a banker. I'm like, oh,
Don't tell anybody that.
Why did they let me work here? I'm terrible at math.
But get this. One of the most commonly used forms of numerology is the Pythagoras methodology. The
Oh,
grandfather of geometry, Pythagoras. He was
What?
actually a mystic.
really?
Yes, he was a mystic.
Oh, what?
And I've picked up on things through reading and like novels and stuff, and every once in a while, or even about like the esoteric. And Pythagoras kind of got a bit of a bad rap back then because he was a mystic and was
Yeah.
interested in the esoterics, and he kind of people referred to him as being an occult kind of thing. Like you'll see once you know this story, you can pick up on
Oh,
those kind of pieces. But he wasn't an occult. What it was he started seeing he could see patterns
Yeah.
hmm.
with numbers, and he started seeing energetic patterns of like what these numbers mean. And so
Hmm.
essentially all numerology is the energetic interpretation of the numbers 1 to 9.
Hmm.
So
So you
if
only
you
need to know what 1 to 9 means, and then
yeah,
you can apply it to all the others.
That is
so simple.
tangible and easy.
So
That feels less
I like that.
yeah, feels less overwhelming. That's good.
Yeah.
this kind of it's a bit, it kind of dovetails a little bit with personality tests, that kind of,
Mm.
Yeah.
and like what is it? what's design? What's the
Human
human
design.
design.
human design?
Yes.
Like, but it's so complicated. Like,
Yes.
I understand a
Mm.
lot of stuff, but if somebody gives me a human design report, I'm like, what the what? Like, I do not know how to interpret
So
this.
it's so much. And I've even tried, I don't know if it's numerology or you know when you can go and you like take your name and
Yes,
then it's all assigned. Yeah. And
that's
so that's numerology. Yeah. I have found myself knee deep into these exercises. And I'm like in my phone and I'm like, okay, Allison Ruth Crawford, right. And then I would do it again for my maiden name. And I find that it was like, then I'll get deeper and then they're like, and then take those two numbers and then put this and then your birthday and then do this. And then I'd be like, what am I doing again?
what was the question?
What was the question? What are we trying to get at?
That's
what
your
was
ADH
this?
brain. You're just like squirrel.
Squirrel. And then I'm like, but I'm like, because I love like that whole like I'm writing it out. Yeah, I'm like all the layers, and then it would be like, what are we doing again? Like, what was this?
Well, and that's
for?
kind of where, as a numerologist, where I come in, because
Mhm.
the most common thing for somebody, I want them to know about themselves with numerology is their ruling number. And
The
so
yeah.
ruling number.
Ruling numbers. That's probably what I was trying to get at for myself. I think I've done it for you, Mandy. I think I've literally have like
I'm on
it's my
11.
ADHD. You're 11?
So with ruling numbers, it typically kind of goes from like 2 to 11, and 11 actually has a lot of the energy of the 2 because
Oh,
you
because
add
there's
up.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the first things that we like to do is and make sure that you understand what your ruling number is, and how you do that is essentially with your numerology. When you were born onto this planet on that day, you were coded. You're energetically coded.
Yes.
And
Ooh.
so you add up all the digits of your birthday singly.
Mm.
And then you'll often come up with a double digit for those of us that are older.
Then you add those.
And you had those. I'm trying to look for mine now, so don't think I'm not paying attention. Now I'm like deep diving and I'm like, squirrel, what's my ruling number?
And so with your ruling number, it's essentially your life path. It's also known as your life path number. I
Right.
like to refer to it as your leadership code in business, because you are coded. Your leadership is coded by your ruling number.
Oh, wow.
I like how you do that, how you tie that to your business and what because then you're kind of get a sense of like the direction that you should take as a business owner, and like kind of like what's your genius, what how people say stay in your zone of genius. That's kind of like your zone of genius.
Yes. Yeah. And that really helped me. Even like I understood a lot about myself, but when I started diving into numerology, so I'm a ruling number 10.
Mm-hmm.
I have the code of the 1 along with the 0. So the 1 is about innovation and fresh starts and new beginnings. I'm really good at seeing opportunities. I'm really good at seeing the opportunity and then creating the plan. Like, I can literally see what you are, what's potent and potential in you.
Right.
That's why I've been a great business coach and a great business strategist, because I can see what you can't see necessarily.
Yeah. And I love that you could use that for your clients to then be able to understand what motivates them or how they kind of approach things. Like we need this in all of life, like, students learning everything. Like we always kind of say, well, everybody learns differently, and so when you can kind of like narrow that down and be like, okay, so this person doesn't do it the way I do it, they do it this way, and it would give you that guidance to help then lead them from that space.
Totally. And it just makes it so much more clear as an entrepreneur, when you're applying it to business, to like know what your zone of genius is, and you also know what your biggest challenges are.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like for myself as a ruling number 10, some of my biggest challenges have to do with taking on the opinions of others. Like, in a way, like, and it doesn't necessarily mean that kind of squashes my innovation. Like, it kind of squashes my gifts when I'm some of the low vibration of my number when that shows up. And one of those things is kind of using others' opinions or kind of leaning on them too much.
Right.
Other low vibrations of the 10 energy would be just feeling stuck, because the high vibration is like movement forward. It's like
Right.
action. But if you're stuck, you're like, so you can look at the high and the low vibration of every number to be able to even see what your way out is.
I feel like this is my
low
next rabbit
vibration.
hole.
Yeah.
Me too, Mandy. I'm like, I found mine. I knew I did it.
Okay,
I'm
well,
a
what's
6? I'm a 6.
You're 6.
6.
What is the 6 life path? Do you know?
So yes, the ruling number 6 is all about balance, harmony, and karmic adjustments. And so the 6 energy in the 6 is like the mama, like just wants everybody to get along and come on.
I'm like,
yeah, she's the shadow worker. She just wants to heal everybody's shadows.
Yes. And but yet a big challenge of the 6 is giving to the point of resentment. Like
being a doormat
is boundaries for the 6. That's a huge life.
Oh, damn it. That's
you nailed her.
True. You did nail me. That's the worst. I'm still dealing with that.
Yeah. Well, and it's just really understanding that is a challenge. And so when you understand it and it's more top of mind, when you are feeling kind of like that resentful, like, like
doesn't feel good.
I feel like I'm giving more than I'm getting. That's kind of the flag in the play to be like, okay, I'm just going to dial things back a bit. I'm not going to say, no, do it yourself. I'm just going to dial it back and be like, oh, actually, I'm busy right now, but I could do it on Friday.
Yes. And I am working, and you're right in the sense, like, it's having the recognition. And we've said that with any type of healing. Once you have the recognition, it doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. It doesn't mean it's like, oh, I struggle with this. Now I know. I'm like, now I don't have to deal with that. But it's when you have that recognition, it's something that, you can be triggered by, to be like, wait a minute, you're doing that thing. And I would say that's definitely over the last couple of years been something that that balancing act of like trying to be like, well, I don't want to like pull way back and be like, you're taking advantage of my boundaries, because I realized where I'd gone. But then also keeping your boundaries, right? It's a tough one. So that's so cool. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, what about the 11 then?
Yeah.
So the 11, like I said, has a lot of similarities to the 2, because the 1 and the 1 make the 2. But the 11 is super creative, and you are using your creative gifts. Like, it's also pairing it up with your spirituality. So your life path is to use your creativity for spiritual growth.
Okay, then.
Ooh,
weird.
And there's also like a humanitarian kind of like approach with the 11. It's kind of like you kind of want to save the world.
It's heavy.
It is
heavy. I feel that.
And so because you also share some of the energy of that too, there is also struggles with balance, like just finding balance in your life, like rather like all in and work and nothing for personal life, or than the other way around.
Yes.
And also for you really making sure that you are honoring the spiritual aspect of your life, which you do on the regular basis, because I mean, you guys have this podcast, you show you have your spiritual practices. So for those that are 11s that don't have spiritual practices, that's kind of sometimes like their creativity is kind of held back by not kind of really connecting with spirit.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So cool. When you're working with somebody, the first thing that you would do is figure out what their life path is, or you call it their leadership code in business. And then that gives you a really good blueprint or starting point on how to create a blueprint for them to work within their business.
Absolutely. It a lot of times I find with entrepreneurs, when I do it, I actually call it a numerology blueprint.
Oh,
it helps them to realize their gifts and to really see them and acknowledge them. Kind of like you know this is a gift, right? Because I think a
Mhm.
lot of times, especially in the beauty and wellness space, we make it all about the client,
Yeah.
and we tend not to really stand in our own power
Yeah.
really openly.
Yeah. It's a giving, right?
I'm
Like
curious,
giving.
because we came onto your podcast a couple weeks ago, and we'll share your podcast in the show notes and stuff. So if anybody's interested in learning more about what you do and connecting with you, that you can check out your podcast. But we talked in that episode a lot about the energy of your business and how your business has an energy. I know for astrology, you can look at the astrological chart of a business. Have you done that for numerology and looked at the birth date, quote unquote, of a business and seen what the numerology is and kind of work the person who owns a business and then the energy of the business?
No, I haven't actually explored that too much, to be perfectly honest. What I've been mostly working with is the numerology blueprint, because that of the entrepreneur, because your
Yeah.
business is really just like an extension of yourself.
Right.
And so kind of in this beginning stages of bringing numerology to the beauty and wellness industry, I've really just kind of started with the blueprint, getting them understanding themselves, their leadership, and how they keep showing up in their business, both the high vibration and the low vibration, because
Right.
sometimes they don't even realize, you know. So for example, the 9 energy, I do see spa owners or beauty and wellness owners that have a ruling number 9, which is all about like having higher wisdom, the end of a manifestation cycle. But the flip side of that wisdom in the low vibration can often come across as being judgmental and kind of critical. And so, just like being able to see, like, if you're a ruling number 9 and that is a low vibration, it's a lot of times just like confirmation, like, oh, that's why I keep doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's why I keep kind of getting after my team and not really blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Right.
Help them
Yeah.
identify what they've been doing well and maybe not so well.
Yeah.
And then they feel a lot more confident moving forward in their business, like knowing what their true gifts are. And then I've helped them to shore up what their struggles are. So for somebody that struggles with being critical and judgmental, like, okay, what are we going to do when we feel critical and judgmental? It's kind of like what's going around on TikTok right now. There's like couples will do, we listen and we
we
don't
don't
Oh, and we
judge.
don't judge. We listen and we don't judge.
judge. So
We
for a
should do
spa
that
owner,
together, Allison.
Yeah, we should. I don't want to tell you secrets.
Just
so
kidding.
if you're a beauty or wellness entrepreneur that's struggling with judgment and criticism, I would say that, like, let's shore that up with policies and procedures. What is your operations manual? What's your staff handbook look like, so that you
What's
don't
your code of conduct?
yeah, like, so you don't have to feel like you're doing that wrong and you're doing that wrong, and I'm irritated now as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so smart.
I have a question. So Mandy and I have gone to this local psychic or whatever for years before we started our spiritual journey. And one of the things that she always does when we go is she's like, okay, what's your birthday? And then she's like, okay, you're moving out of a year 8 and you're moving into a year 9 or whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I've always just been like,
Fascinated?
yeah, well, fascinated. And I'm like, what is this? And how do I calculate so I can know what year I'm moving into? So that's numerology, right?
Totally. And
Okay.
super easy to figure that out.
Oh, yay.
So, okay, with your ruling number, you're adding all the digits of your birthday.
Yes.
Okay. For your personal year, you're only using your month, your day, and then this particular year.
Oh, your month, your day, and this
So my
year.
birthday is June 22nd. So for I'm in a personal year 9, because I've added up 6 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 4.
Wow. Okay. And then you can go and see what the energy, because so the energy of the numbers is always the same. Like,
Yeah, so like the numbers 1, like number 1 always means like fresh starts, new beginnings. Number 2 always means connection and intuition. Number 3 always means amplified creativity and sensitivity.
Okay. So
yeah,
whatever context you put it into it's still like
Yes.
has its core meaning type of thing.
It's its own number, and it stays that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
What year are you in? Sorry, Kirsten? A 9?
I'm in a personal year 9.
Me too.
So I'm just finishing up a year 9. And so basically I look back and I started something in 2016. So did you. You started something in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And we are now in 2024, we're wrapping up that cycle.
Mm.
So I know for me in 2016, that's when I had like another kick, spiritual, a kick in the spiritual pants, as it were. I went to a beautiful, I think I told you about it in when I was interviewing you guys. I went to Rebecca Campbell's Rise Sister Rise,
Oh yeah.
5-day event in upstate New York, and I was totally blissed out on the divine feminine. And I'm like, I want to live like this all the time.
Yeah.
That was September of 2016, and I actually wrote out on a card before I left what my intentions were, and I wanted to create community for women around the divine feminine. And I put in there, like, I want to work with the divine feminine every single day. I want to stay in this liminal, beautiful space.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was year 1 that started. I am now in 2024. I have implemented it into my business. I'm wrapping up things. So the 9 is about endings, completion, higher wisdom. So I've rebranded my business just this past month. This past year, I've shifted from my niche from just spa owners to beauty and wellness. So I've opened that up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about spirituality all the time in my social media. Like it's fully integrated now.
Wow.
And so that cycle, that manifestation cycle that started in 2016 is completing. And I'm starting another one. You and I will both be starting another one, Mandy, in 2025.
Does it go to 10?
Starting a new cycle.
So
yeah, so we're going to be going to a 1 energy.
Going to a 1. Interesting. I'm in a 3.
Okay. That's all about expanded creativity.
And so that ends this month, like the end of this month, right? So I'm moving. Okay. So it's like moves into the next one come January. So moving into a 4.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I suspect this year for you as a 3 energy, a personal year, is likely like lots of ideas, lots of creative ideas, lots of communication, there's an issue. There's like the topic of sensitivity. As much as you're able to honor your sensitivity superpowers, your creativity will rise.
Yeah.
Now you're going to be moving into a 4 energy year, which is all about stability and structure.
Oh, I love stability.
Whatever you've been creating this year now is asking for, like, okay, let's create structure to create stability for it so that it's got longevity to it to move into.
Interesting. And you know what? It's funny because I'm like sitting here putting it into Mandy and I, because like, the dynamic of having a business with 2 owners and how much we realize, like with our star signs, with the planets moving where we all are, and now numerology, and you're like, oh God, like, but then I was kind of like, man, does that like match up? But then I was like, no, but spirit, like all of it's happening the way it's meant to happen. And it's not, if we're meant to be business owners together, which we know we are, then all of that is just going to line up and complement each other, or give us lessons.
And that kind of takes me to the conversation about, like, in numerology, we have like sacred contracts that we can look at between 2 people. So what your code and what the other person's code is. So we should do your contracts, ladies.
Oh my God. Okay. We are doing that. This is so cool. Why we need that. She's my lover.
I deny that. What is a sacred? How do you do a sacred contract? Are you just basically comparing numerology charts or blueprints?
It's a little bit different. So there's numerology and then there's cardology. So numerology is the Pythagoras methodology using numbers 1 to 9. Cardology is actually using a deck of cards.
What?
So numerology has actually been hidden in
Like a regular deck of cards. We're not talking oracle cards. We're talking just regular. What the?
regular deck of
What the
cards.
what?
I need to go buy some cards.
Wait,
So-
you don't have any?
No, because I have oracle cards.
So yes. So basically all of the numbers on the cards, you know,
Yeah.
they're all have the numbers that we know.
Yes.
The king, the Jack, King, and Queen, their face cards are kind of like personality cards. They have their own meanings, and then each of the suits have meanings. So like spades is a meaning of transformation. Hearts is usually about relationships. Diamonds is usually about personal values and money.
Yeah.
Clubs is thinking and communication.
Okay.
And so with sacred contracts, we're actually using cardology. So everybody has what they call a sun card, which is your birth card.
Yeah.
And that's what we go off of rather than your ruling number. We go by your sun card. So your sun card, Allison, and Mandy's sun card. And then I would be looking up the soul contract between those two cards. And it's usually what it shows is things like what the contract is about, like what the relationship is, like who is getting what out of the relationship. That's what those.
Oh, so you offer those type of readings? Yeah, we're booking that.
We're
Mandy.
booking that.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are.
I feel like it'll just confirm what we already know.
No. Isn't that what readings do though? Like
Yes.
it really is like, but it's validating, you know, in that sense. And then it does give you things that you're kind of like, oh, I didn't see it that way. So yes, we already knew, but then we didn't see it that way and how that fits in together. And then we can work off of that, right?
Yeah. And then to be able to just have that little bit deeper understanding of your sun card and her sun card, and like, you know, how can we both step into our own highest vibrations and support each other in our low vibrations? Because we're humans. We move into our low vibrations all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolute polarity, right? Like we can't expect to be all the
Well,
time.
that's kind of the whole point of humanness is duality.
Totally.
The black and the white. Like
Yeah.
we're meant to choose you know, every day, every moment. What do I want? What do I want? You keep moving towards what I want.
Well, and we're not here in this, you know, because even, you know, we've often said, like, even though we've, you know, found this spirituality and understand things and see things from bigger perspective and all these things, it's like, but we're still here to be human. So we're, even though we have that, like, oh yeah, no, I can totally see the higher concept version, but right now I'm choosing to be pissed off and I'm going to be the human side of me, and we'll go to that more enlightened side a little bit later. I do that all the time.
We're entitled to have our pity party, you know.
Absolutely.
Have our little pity party, but again, it's also part of a manifestation cycle.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a pity party. It's a manifestation. A manifestation cycle starts off with the 1, which is about independence. It's about ego. It's about what I want. And then the 2 is, okay, well, how do I relate to others? How do I relate to my higher self?
Yeah.
The 3 is, okay, now that I know what I want and I've connected with others and self, okay, how can I expand this creativity? How can I use my sensitivity for my creativity? Then we move to the 4. How do I use all of what I've just done, 1, 2, and 3, and create more stability for it?
I love that. Well, and even just understanding, you know, people in your life, what year they are in or going into, because I'm just thinking, oh, I'm going to do this for my kids, so I can understand and how to best parent them through the year, or prepare myself if it's a, you know, a tough one. Yeah, it's so interesting.
I found, like, when I started with numerology, it was one of the first things I did when I kind of learned my ruling number, is I did the ruling number of my kids and my husband. And oh my goodness, did that ever like make so much sense.
Wow.
Like, I mean, I understand them and love them, but I understood them and love them at a completely different level.
Yeah. I totally get that, because I've found that with astrology, when I kind of started, you know, going down that and putting the kids in and stuff, and then I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. You know, my sister, she's just a fiery Aries, and I remember reading. Well, it's so true. But when I read into it more and the different signs, I was like, oh, I totally get it now. And so you can approach it with kind of, I don't know, like an understanding in that
Compassion.
sense. Yeah, there's compassion and understanding, and not kind of like that trigger of like, why are you acting that way?
Mhm.
You know? So yeah, so interesting. I like that.
Well, and that kind of brings us to the topic of, so we were talking about personal years. So
Yeah.
you can, as listening, can figure out what personally the year that, so now they should know what their really number is.
Yeah.
And you can figure out what your personal year is and kind of what you're going into for 2025.
Right.
Yes.
Now, one of the things I wanted to share about 2025 is the universal energy. So
Yeah.
every month, every day, every year, there is a universal energy that everybody will be experiencing.
Like a collective energy.
It's just
Yeah.
it's collective energy.
Yeah.
And so last month was one energy month in November. We're now in a 2 energy month for December. Kind of interesting because there's going to be lots of like, so 2 energy is about relationships. It's connection and intuition and connection to higher self. And so, we're going into a month that we're likely going to be connecting with a lot of relationships.
Yeah.
So
So
interesting.
here's the beauty that we, especially now that you understand a little bit more of number 2 energy about connection and collaboration, empathy, compassion, balance, understanding in relationships. We can maybe look at our, when we're getting together with family and friends a little bit differently, and having that compassion that we're all going to be experiencing this 2 energy, both the high and the low for this month. So
Wow.
we will be feeling like a lot of pressure of the holidays and finances. And so what I tell my business owners in my forecast is like, this month especially, your clients are going to need a lot more compassion and empathy and understand, like help them make decisions. They're going to be like decision fatigued. And so when we understand the universal energy of the month, we can shape up our conversations with people in our life to make it a little easier for everybody to move through. And then in January, we're going to be moving from an 8 energy year that we're in right now into a 9 energy year.
Oh,
Completion.
Now, when you start to think about what's happening big picture in the world, is really fascinating to watch. So 2024 has been an 8 energy year, and it's been about power and authority, subject matter expertise. And now we're going into a 9 energy, which is about higher wisdom and being able to, and completing cycles, like cycle completion.
Yeah.
So for everybody, the 9 energy is about letting go.
Wow.
So next year, whatever, like, don't fight it.
right.
If I can give you any bit of advice, whatever happens next year that is about letting go or loss, or what might feel like loss, there is an energy of completion, and it might be just time for it to go.
Yeah.
And
Which
it's when
means
we
change.
Yeah, and it's
right?
and we have to let it go in order to allow the next manifestation cycle to have space in it to start something new.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting.
so the 9 energy next year will be about, like, the high vibration will be trying to keep our higher wisdom about things. Like, we can look past in the past, 8 years and go, okay, we've learned a few things. Let's hold that wisdom. Very much humanitarian energy as well.
Amazing.
Looking at those cycle completions, like just being really aware of like what's finishing up.
Yeah.
Or what needs finishing up. That's kind of got dangling bits in there. And then really paying attention to the low vibration of it, like being judgmental, being overly critical. Do as I say, not as I do. That is a super low 9 vibration,
Yeah.
not walking your talk.
Yeah.
That's going to bite you in the butt next year.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
If you're not, so things like talking about spiritual practices. If you're not doing your own spiritual practices on a regular basis, you know, that's the kind of energy where, like, if you're wondering why things aren't clicking together, and it's like, well, am I walking my talk?
Yeah.
Truly.
I need to do that more. Like I do, in the sense of like obviously as just as a day to day, it's just weaved into my brain, but I'm not very good at the
creating the time.
Well, yeah, doing like the practices of like, oh, I'm going to journal and I'm going to go meditate for myself and all those things. Mine's more kind of like on the go in the flow, right? Like I receive a lot as I'm going, but I should be taking more time to like.
I think that's just a matter of like finding how your spiritual practices work for you.
True.
I do not believe that you have to sit and like cross-legged to manifest anything.
Yeah.
Like, all of these little rituals have simply been ways for the human condition to connect to spirit. And quite frankly, I feel like we're moving along here, like, you know, like for consciousness. And I feel like we're not needing as many tools as we did, because the connection's just there.
It's
like,
just stronger. Yeah. I always forget that.
Tools have always been just a way for us as humans to feel more connected and kind of connection, but you get to do it how you want. On the flow and on the fly, then
I always I gotta stop with that, because I'm like I always forget that, because Mandy and I, that's something we've talked, because she's really like, that's her thing, and I've always been like, oh, she's so good at doing the practice and the things, and I'm like, Allison, do better. But then I keep forgetting that I'm like, okay, wait a minute,
do it differently.
I do it differently. And I deep think all the time, so I'm like, it's like I'm processing, so I have to remember that.
I feel like I need to do it because it makes me feel more grounded. And when I look at my astrology chart, for example, I don't have any earth, like not a lot of earth element in my astrology. So it's a way for me to feel grounded. I have lots of air and water.
Okay.
Not a lot of earth. I heard somebody say that the other day, and it was like, oh, people who don't have a lot of earth struggle with organization.
Interesting.
And I was like, so it made me ponder, and I was like, oh, maybe that's why I like to do this, and this.
Yeah, that's interesting.
To make me feel more grounded. And I have to like, and so when Alli, when you and I are like doing business stuff and you're like, just do it on your phone, I'm like, I can't, I need to like be in a grounded space to like focus on what I'm doing.
I know, because I'm like, I'm very, I guess it's like that malleable, or like, again, on the go. And I'm like, oh, okay, like I need to do this. And I'm like, I figure it out on my phone. And I'm like sitting at soccer, doing it on my phone.
And Alli's like, and I'm like, I need to carve out the time to be able to focus on it. And it drives Alli nuts. She's like, just do it on your phone.
I will just get it done.
I think that Alli, your energy seems more integrated that way. Like, you don't need to necessarily create a sacred space to do whatever. Like, you are energetically integrated in a way that you don't need to necessarily do that.
Have the compartments, I guess, in that sense. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
You don't need to shit on yourself anymore.
No,
don't shit on yourself. Oh, it was right when you were talking. I was like, as you were talking, I was like, in my dialogue in my head was like, shit, I need to do better. And then I was like, I bet Mandy's like, Allison doesn't do that. And so it was like, that was my first like, do better, Allison. But no, this has been helpful to remind me, where it's like, no, wait, okay, maybe I don't need that. So okay, thank you, I appreciate
that. And that's actually where we're going with our human consciousness, is that you know, like, we're the density of our consciousness isn't what it was 100 years ago, right? 100 years ago, you would have to have like, that's why religions had like such entrenched rituals. As just as a consciousness, we didn't have as the ability as we do now to connect with source as easily as we do now.
And it's weaving into our consciousness. Like, we've seen that. It's just this like weaving in, where it's just becoming part of us. So I love that visual in that sense. I do find it interesting that we're going into a year 9, and astrologically, like, I don't know astrology. All I know is that they're like 2025, the planets are lining up. I guess
Yeah.
every
Boom,
single
boom, boom,
planet,
boom, boom.
every single planet's changing or blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, don't they do that every year? I have no idea. But I'm like, so don't quote me on it. I just know that I've heard it over and over and over. This is a big year astrologically with the planetarian parts of it. So it's interesting that we're in a year 9.
Even in Chinese astrology, I'm hearing the same thing about
Really?
that it's a big shakeup year.
Buckle up, everybody.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It is.
It's kind of like so I just did a little video in I have a Facebook group called Sacred Business Mastery. And yesterday was a new moon, 1st of December, kind of like, you know, how things were kind of lining up in numerology. I was like, it's like a bit of like a doorway that's coming. And so November was an one energy month, asking us to get clear about what I want, like, and, you know, giving 0 F's about anybody else, decoupling from other people's opinions. What do I want? No matter what anybody else wants. That gave us that clarity. And there's stuff going on in the world too that allowed, you know, helped us to kind of put a stake in the sand and be like, F this, I want my life like this.
Yeah.
And so because in January will be another one energy month in a 9 energy year, my intuition is telling me that this doorway that has just been open for us this next couple days is like, step in with your clarity, and it is time for meaningful action.
I've been feeling that. I've been feeling that.
Yeah.
And as I was saying it in the recording, I'm like it was literally like,
you could feel it.
Meaningful action. Come on. It's time.
Like enough is enough. Like I'm sick of it. Let's just do it and move forward and let's just get on with it.
Because the 8 energy year of this year that we're wrapping up is very much that CEO energy of like standing in what you know is right and true, and you know, just, you know, that authority.
Yeah.
That was meant for us to step into the next piece of the 9 energy with our authority and our clarity to be like, okay, what do we know is right? Like, truly right? Like, what is our collective wisdom? And I feel like, you know, like I think this year was also the rise of the divine feminine in a really big way.
Yeah.
And I think that in the 9 energy year, the crone, which is like the 3, 6, the
which
3,
is
6,
Mandy,
9 is the maiden, the mother, and the crone. It's a crone year. It's the wise woman year.
Love that.
I love that. I love that. It's funny because when you were talking about like January, kind of like the action, I did our weekly reading, and one of the cards on there was like, I felt this pause, but it was like they were showing it to me as like pause for December. And it was like, you need to stop because there's more information coming in that's going to be downloaded, more information. And then I'm like, I feel like then the go action was end of December into January. So like right when you said that, I was like, oh, interesting, because
and that too, and like that pairs up with numerology with this 2 energy month, like that what you're talking about December is the pause. That 2 energy is about relationships.
Yeah. And it just was like, don't make any decisions. It was like, just sit in it. Right. So interesting.
It's so interesting how these all like they're just different modalities, really.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
The energetics are saying very, very similar things.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that
cool.
So much.
So much easier to navigate through life and business when you can use these tools in that way, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
this was so good. Oh, Mandy's gonna.
I have one more question because we never got to talk about angel numbers, and so many people get angel numbers, and it's usually a very strong indication that you're at the beginning of like a spiritual awakening, and spirit is really trying to like wake you up and say, "Hey, look at me, I'm here. Pay attention." So, can you go through some of the meanings of the most common angel numbers, like 1111, 111, 1234, and then like the double, like 212? 322, 333.
Okay, like we can't go through all of them.
I know, but
Okay.
what
every single one, please.
Well, essentially, it's anytime you get repeating numbers, it is an amplification of that energy.
of that first number.
Of that, yeah. So if you get if you get 2 ones, you get 3 ones, 4 ones, 5. Like the more ones you get, it's like almost starts yelling at you.
Oh, for like one, the meaning of one.
The meaning of one is fresh
Yeah.
starts.
Fresh start.
Take a step, innovation, new beginnings. It's like make a wish kind of thing.
And so it doesn't even matter if it's like 1-1 versus 1-1-1 versus 1-1-1-1-1. It's just more
it's just more amplified. Like it's like look at it as it's
like,
trying to get your attention even more.
It's like 1 is a whisper, 2 is like a hey, 1-1. 3 ones is like hello, and then 4 ones is like yelling at you.
Oh my God, I get yelled at all the time. Well, you know, I'm getting good at this numerology thing, and I did the math in my head. So just listen up. I just did the 9/11 one because that was my spiritual awakening number, and I was getting it all the time. And I just realized that is an 11, which is connected to spirituality. And that was my one that I was like, what the hell is remember 9/11? Because I was like, this is so, but that was like, I had to have a strong number to get my attention. Because I was like, you know.
So 9 is a completion. 9 is the completion, and 11 is the amplification.
Well, but isn't it like you added? Well, I added them together.
Oh,
so I added the 9. Yeah, you tell us what 9/11, but I added them together.
But those kinds of numbers, I don't normally add them up.
Oh,
so 9/11
wrong.
So we can look at 911 as like, hey, emergency, like wake up, or like I need your attention, or you need to know something, or look, like
it scared me.
Yeah, there's that. And then you can look at, I did see somebody had written about like the event 9/11 and how numerology, the 9 being the completion.
Yeah.
And then the colon, and then the 1 and the 1, the 11, which, you know, like it's kind of like the 2, like 2, it's like connection and collaboration.
Yeah.
Ending to restart, like 2 ones are kind of like 2 starting, but they're 2s in terms of connection.
Yeah. Interesting.
And we see like when somebody asked me about like 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's kind of like if you see ones, it's more like get started. Like there's nothing you are not starting. When I'm seeing 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, 4, it's that nudge to like start and complete, like take the steps.
Like go through the process, because you got the steps, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, like those numbers. Okay, so go through the process, do the steps.
And if you keep seeing them over and over and over again, that's literally just your higher self and your guides going, yo.
And what if you're like, I get it? Because that's what I do. Like, so there's like,
I get it.
Yeah.
Do you?
I don't think so.
Because I get so mad. So like, I was like the 7s, right, Mandy? Like I went through this in the summer where it was ridiculous. Like even just signs on a freaking, you know, storefront, and it was like 777, and I was like, fuck you. What do you want? And I finally was like, I don't know what you want. Stop.
Yeah. Right? The 7 is deep faith and trust.
Oh, damn it. Like, that's not good.
Was that relevant?
But that's not what you were.
That was relevant.
It was relevant, but that's not what you were getting, because you were just Googling angel numbers, and so many different things come up with
so many different
understanding the numerology is so much different than just Googling the angel numbers. Because we would
they all have it wrong. Almost all of the angel numbers on social media. It irritates me to no end, because I'm like, that is not what that means. Like somebody just pulled that out of their ass.
So interesting.
I feel like Joanna Scribe's angel numbers, I don't know, that one, I feel like she follows the numerology, because it's, you know, she breaks down the ones and then the numbers and all that sort of stuff. But what happens when you see, I think I asked this already, but like, so 311, for example, is something that I'm seeing all the time. And so I would look at the 3 as the numerology number, and then the 11 to amplify it.
No, it's just another part of the message. So the
Oh.
3 energy is about amplified creativity.
Mm.
And then are you are you sleeping on your creativity?
Well, I feel like my creativity
Yes.
blocked.
Just kidding.
So yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I see that as a message of like it's time to connect truly with your creativity,
Okay.
because 11 is your ruling number.
Yeah.
So it's wanting to pair up and do stuff with you.
You're in trouble.
Oh.
You're in trouble. You're not
I see.
listening.
Okay. Honestly, Kirsten, I see 211, 311, 511, 411, 811, 911, like 711. Everything is like number 11. Anytime I look at the clock, it's like something 11. So I'll have to pay more attention.
Mandy's always been in our business the
Creative.
so when we talk about the creative, because like obviously there's different layers of creativity,
Yes.
right? So like I like being creative with like visual things and the aesthetics. But Mandy has always been the one that kind of like receives these downloads, these this inspiration, where all of a sudden she gets these like waves of like, this is what we need to create. Like, this is what we need to create within our business. Like she gets these inspirations to do that. Right. And I think there has been, you've had a bit of this block where it's not coming as freely. It's kind of like more of like I feel this, but it's like, we're just pulling it, where before it would just like flow out of you. Yeah. Right. So that's so interesting.
Mm-hmm. How do we unblock
this? My question would be asking, like, do you create space for your creativity?
No.
But just from what you were saying, like in order for you to feel grounded, like it's really important for you to kind of create.
Yeah. Like I have just started recreating that practice.
Well, so I would say that is very much calling you to do that, to create that sacred space so that you can do something with your creativity. Like it can actually be born and move forward.
It's waiting to come out.
Yes,
she just needs to give the
I need to open the
our
door.
Business is relying on you, Mandy. Open the door. Open it. No. We've learned not to put that pressure on each other. But it's there.
but
it's there. No. I know. This was so fun.
Yeah, it was so fun.
I can't wait to book a reading. It's going to be so interesting. I love that. And now I want to deep dive into it as well.
I know.
Yeah.
Do you have resources where if people are interested in numerology, where they might learn a little bit more?
Absolutely. I'm going to give you, for your show notes, I'm going to give you a link to my leadership code opt-in. And that way your listeners can opt in and figure out what their leadership code, ruling number, life path number, they're all used interchangeably. And then it's got a little report in there so you can read a little bit more about your own ruling number. It is kind of influenced more as for entrepreneurs, but you'll still find some really good nuggets in there. And then if you do the ruling number for your family or your friends, all of the reports are in there for all of them, so you can have a look at them. Awesome. But that's the best one to kind of get started in kind of delving into numbers and understanding your own code. Like that's where the magic is. When you can understand your own code, it's kind of like it's pulling back the curtain to be able to see the things you just couldn't see, but you kind of knew.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And where can people find you if they're interested in connecting?
My website is kirstenfoss.com. It's KIRSTEN. You can find me on Instagram at Kirsten_Foss or Kirsten Foss Coaching on Facebook. And then I also have the Sacred Business Mastery podcast on all the podcast platforms.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Yes. Well, we'll have to have you back. We really appreciate you being here with us. And we're very grateful for you to share some of your wisdom with us and our audience. And we will chat with you soon.
Yeah, because I want to have an Akashic reading from you guys. So
definitely.
Oh, yay. I love that.
Oh, look at that.
Crazies.
Okay. All right.
Ladies.
See you next week, guys.